Hello, and welcome to another episode of UTalks, the podcast that focuses on leadership. I am your host, Dr. Clavon Byrd, and I'm joined today by Dr. Ramard Wright. How are you doing today, Ramard?
Nice to meet you.
Can I call you Dr. Wright or Ramard?
Dr. Wright.
Dr.
Ramard.
Ramard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dr. Wright.
I might stick with Dr. Wright. I like that.
But it's easier. It rolls off the tongue a little.
No, I like the idea of the type of doctor you are.
Sure.
And I like the idea of the way you look being the type of doctor that you are and who you represent.
Sure.
Is that cool?
No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
So I'm with Dr. Ramard Wright, and he is going to begin by telling us just a little bit about who he is, the work that he does, and what brings him here today to this podcast.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me. A little bit about me. Born and raised here in urban streets of Milwaukee.
All right.
Single parent household. Grew up in the Waco projects. Went to Riverside, then off to Tuskegee undergrad.
Okay.
Got my bachelor's at UW Milwaukee.
Okay. Me too.
Did you?
Me too. Yeah.
And then on to vet school in Madison for 4 years.
Okay.
After vet school, I found my wife, bought a veterinary clinic. Been doing pretty well for the past, 12, 13 years, I think.
Okay. So,
Wright's Brown Deer Animal Hospital.
okay. Where are you located specifically?
We're located on 51st and Brown Deer, right
Okay.
behind the BP gas
I know
station.
exactly where that is. Absolutely. Okay.
So been doing pretty well, keeping busy. I have a big family.
Okay. Tell us about your family.
Sure.
I read a little something about your family and your fur family, or
Yes.
your reptilian
My
family
animal
as
babies.
well.
Right.
Your animal babies.
So I have a lot of animal
yes,
babies
you do. Yes.
and a lot of real babies.
Tell us about all of them. Yeah.
Thanks. We have 10 kids, age 25 down to 3.
Wow.
Just had a birthday for Miss Mariah this past weekend.
Okay.
6 boys, 4 girls, triplet girls. So busy household with the kids and school and dinners and bath, but also 5 adult dogs and 2 cats and a bird and a snake and
Okay.
puppies and just you name it. We
So-
got it. We keep busy.
So wait a minute. Okay. So you have 10 children.
Yes.
10.
Tens.
And you have several animals.
And we have a little menagerie of
A menagerie. Yes.
dogs, cats, no horses yet.
No, yet.
Not yet. Not
Yeah.
yet. We have
Okay.
a barn. So eventually, if we make
You're headed
another
to
day
the-
in the week, 8 days maybe, then I have an extra day to do horses and whatnot. But
Okay.
but I have my hands full with these puppies right now.
Absolutely. What's the day in the life like in your home with so many voices,
gosh,
so many
right,
personalities, including the animal?
Well, if it's too quiet, something has happened.
Something is right.
You know,
Somebody's
so-
up to something. If it's too quiet.
Yes, yeah. So I fear when it gets too quiet, but otherwise just busy,
Okay.
man. Everybody needs their attention, so you have to give all the kids their personal attention, and the animals, and the wife. So it's a long day starting at 5:30 till 10:30, 11, and
Yeah.
just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah. I noticed he did include his wife, so that's good.
Yes,
He said, and
yes,
the wife.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what led you to become a veterinarian? Growing up, or was it always an aspiration of yours, or is that something you picked up in college?
Well, a lot of people ask, why veterinarian, Dr. Wright? But, I always liked animals. Everybody says that. But then I found out I was really good working with them. Liking one thing and being good at can be a little different. So the fact that I talk the talk, we were talking earlier about maybe my house is like a Dr. Doolittle area.
Right.
Right. I'm pretty good with the little ones, so mice and ferrets, but then all the way up to the big 200-pound mastiff.
Wow.
And every day is different. So
That's a protective animal, right there.
it can be.
Yeah.
It can be. But so too can a little chihuahua.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. They usually like to stand up and show their chest a little bit. Yeah.
People are less afraid of the chihuahua, but
Right.
honestly, some of the little ones can be full of vinegar and keep you busy too.
Okay.
But I like the variety of the day, being a veterinarian.
Okay.
When I wake up, I don't know what I'm going to see necessarily. Right. Most physicians, they kind of have a track. So,
Sure.
They're doing, dermatology or oncology or internal medicine, surgery. I do all that in one day. And so the variety of it kind of keeps me on my toes and something interesting. I don't know. I would never be able to work at just a cubicle and stay. I need to kind of move and boom, boom, boom. And so,
yeah.
So I appreciate the variety of the day in the life of
sure.
veterinarian.
Did you have a mentor or someone that turned you on to this field, or?
Not really. As you may know, honestly, the veterinary profession is only, I think the statistic is maybe 2% Black veterinarians in the United States. So I didn't have any, Black minority leaders or mentors per se. We didn't have many animals either. But what I did have was my grandfather had a cottage growing up that, I get out of the city to go to the cottage for the summers and fishing, maybe catching rabbits or snakes, just more outdoorsy type things. And that's where my mind kind of flipped like, maybe I can make a life out of working with animals. And that's what I did.
You did. And we're happy to have you in the community doing this, right where you were born and raised. So you have very busy days. You've got, like you said, 5:30 till like 11:30 at night. So that leaves about 5.5, 6 hours of sleep, right? So given your busy schedule, given all the demands and pulls on your time from your large family, your large animal family, your clients and your patients, right? All of that. What drives you? How are you able to continue to do this every single day?
Right. Well, I ask myself that question every morning. But again, it's fun. I think I once read, if you do what you love, it really isn't a job.
Not a day of work ever.
Yeah. So I keep busy doing what I love every day. Talking to the people, talking to the community, educating the community, helping the community train their animals. I think that's a big thing, a big role that we oftentimes don't consider a veterinarian, a role for a veterinarian. But it's fun for me to help. And the best way for me to do it is using my best skill. And I think that's working with animals and teaching and training, not just the dogs and cats, but the people how to deal with the dogs and cats.
All right. So I want to be among the first to congratulate you for receiving the 2024 Trailblazer Award from Urban Learning Collaborative. And you will receive that award at the Fall Ball on October 19th. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so one of the themes of that evening is literacy. How would you define literacy in the context of the work that you do?
Well, literacy, reading, that's a pet peeve of mine. I discussed that I enjoy being a veterinarian because of the action part of it, kind of working with the animals and people and just the variety of the day. But, at the end of the day, there's records. And so after I see every client, I have to write a paragraph about what I saw, what I didn't see, what we discussed. And you have to be proficient.
Absolutely.
So, it's important to, have that, those groundworks, that base. And actually, Milwaukee Public Schools helped me develop that base. And now every day I use my typing skills, communication, so that people understand what you're talking about. I could use my big fancy words all day long, but if they don't understand, who did it help?
Right.
So, literacy is not just learning the proper ways to say things, but it's developing that communication between two people. That to me is literate, being able to communicate. So it's not just, like I say, just the paper part of it, but it's the understanding and the kind of behind the scenes to me. Because even as a veterinarian, there's a lot of things I've learned in, 8-10 years of school that I can't break it down within 2 minutes. But, if I could look somebody in the eye and say, well, if you feed them too much, too many treats or not enough exercise, your dog can develop diabetes too. And kind of, I think they grasp it better coming from, somebody with their background
Sure.
who can break it down a little differently.
Sure. You brought up communication, and communication is comprised of reading, writing, speaking, and listening.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's very important.
Yeah. So how does that skill play a role in your work as a vet?
Well, I treat
you can't really listen to the animals.
That's right. So
unless he really is Dr. Doolittle.
Right, no,
right?
That's good. I wish it'd be too easy then.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Part of it is trying to understand what's wrong with the dog or the cat, but then interpreting that and allowing the client the space to. It's different being a veterinarian than a physician, I think, because a physician just deals. Their client is the person. Me as a veterinarian, my client really is the dog or cat or the animal. But if I can't communicate effectively to the owner, then we won't get the problem solved. So it's a duality, being able to interpret, but then communicate with the owner so they understand what's going on.
Sure. A big part of ULC's work is trying to identify opportunity gaps for marginalized communities and address those gaps, put resources together to address those gaps. In your experience, what are the most significant opportunity gaps that you see that affect marginalized communities?
Well, just, you talk about the opportunity. Oftentimes, if you're interviewing or, your goal is to work in a certain area, but the people don't all look like you, they might not give you that opportunity. So I think that's the biggest challenge in my profession is that it is a predominantly, not really minority field. So how does a child from the urban setting, convince the rest of the veterinary community that I'm good, because they don't all just look at your grades, and to me, part of that is personality. You have to have a little personality to get your foot in the door and take advantage of these opportunities. So,
okay. Can you talk about one of those opportunities? For example, where did tell us the story of a really big opportunity that you had to step in, use your personality, where people may not have given you the opportunity had you not done that.
Sure. Well, so I spoke about, the schooling to become a vet, but then you have to land a job and then you want to be successful in that job. And, as you see, I don't look like your typical veterinarian. So initially being, 28 years old, young man, maybe a little slang, I think initially it kind of took folks off guard, but over the 12 years, I've proven myself. I've spoken about, how's your daughter? Is your son still playing soccer? That personality part of it that's helped me grow my business.
Sure.
So I think there were some barriers initially, just the way I look, but I prove them wrong with the work that I do.
Okay. In the work that you do you ever encounter, I want to be able to say this the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, in the work that you do you ever encounter the idea that, or the feeling that you don't belong, or have you ever encountered that?
All of my life I've been striving to be the best that I can be.
Sure.
And sometimes that puts me in rooms with people who don't look like me, but I think with hard work, you can get most things accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think everybody who's met me knows I work hard, whatever it is I'm doing. Even when I was a technician, cleaning cages or assisting holding animals,
Sure.
I was a hard worker. I was always there on time and I was ready to do my job and no attitude. These positive things assist you, when you don't necessarily fit in that room. So to me, I try to be a chameleon. I try to not change who I am, but just fit in and make sure I'm part of that conversation.
Okay. And obviously, you've had a very successful career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what has been your biggest success story up to this point?
Up to this point,
Yeah.
my biggest success story is my family. I think I'm very blessed to have such a large, healthy family. And it reminds me of, as my wife always says, what matters most. And I've learned that the things that matter most really are family. So I'm most proud of, bringing in, 10 children into this world
Wow.
and teaching them the proper way to, handle problems and assisting them learning difficult tasks, pushing them to do things they don't want to do, and succeeding in it. That's my biggest success story.
Okay. Do you see yourself as a leader in that space?
Oh, sure.
You sure? Okay. And so, how would you define leadership?
Leadership. Well, as you mentioned earlier, I think, and this is one point I think people oftentimes miss. Yes, being a leader, you're kind of at the forefront. You're taking on the role as the show person. It all falls down on you. But being an effective leader, you have to be an effective listener too. And so I try to, talk less and listen more to lead the discussion or the situation or whatever we're dealing with. But we're always going to have issues, and how do you deal with it? The choices you make when these, issues come up, that's what determines how successful of a leader you will be.
Yeah. And I think those that follow this podcast and those that are involved in leadership understand that leadership is not always a straight line.
Oh, no.
Right?
Everybody gets some bumps in the road.
Yes, sir.
But that's how you determine what type of leader you're going to be. It
Yeah.
can't all just be straight and narrow. So
Yeah.
when you fall, now what do? How do you get up? How do you
Yeah.
pick yourself up? What are the choices that
Sure.
you make?
Sure. Tell us about that. Can you tell us about a time when, you may have had a bump in the road, or there was a lesson that you had to learn from?
Mm-hmm.
How did you? First of all, what was it, if you could share it?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you handle it? How did you overcome
Right.
it?
Well, life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. So I think we've all had strifes that kind of kick us down, and what do you do when that happens? I try to stay positive. The biggest I don't know what the word would be, but I guess obstacles that I've had really has just been, financially. How do you open a veterinary clinic when, you don't have parents with millions of dollars? So you have to learn to be frugal, and just because all your friends are going out and partying or buying a new car or whatever it may be, you have to stick with your goals. And I've always wanted to be a veterinarian, so I always knew that regardless of what everybody else was doing, I got to take this test. I have to get here on time. I need to do these extracurricular activities to add to my resume. So it's sacrificing some of the fun, easy things for the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we share the same story with that. And I know that many out in our audience share that as well. For those that want to succeed at a certain level, you have to focus. You have to have self-discipline.
You have to.
There's so much fun going on out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the fun that you're having, raising the beautiful family, having the great practice, right? Having the animals there as part of your family, that's the fun.
Oh yeah.
That's the long-lasting fun. The other fun was momentary, right? So listeners of our podcast know that we always talk about leadership. We always talk about how difficult it can be, but self-discipline is a really important theme that we've talked about, and you're highlighting that here. I read somewhere that not only do you have the family, not only do you have the animals, not only do you have the practice, but that you're also actively involved in mentoring.
Sure.
Yeah, can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we talked before the cameras got going, and I told you I want horses, but I don't have enough time to do that. But I've made time to kind of mentor and help guide some of the youth and just show them, that life is large. There's so many different things you can do in this life, and you don't have to limit yourself just from your specific background. I try to, open doors and open up minds that, things that you never thought of. Now, okay, now I can think, okay, I can't be a vet, but maybe I want to work with animals. Maybe I can own a pet store. Maybe I can own my own grooming salon. Maybe a boarding facility. So, not to just stay with this one-track mind. A lot of people say, I like animals, I want to be a vet. Maybe being a vet won't work for you, but if you love animals, there's these other opportunities that you can take and still, get your love of animals at work. So,
do you work with a specific group of mentees through an organization, or is this something that you just do on your own? You find
well, I
people?
have done. Lately the biggest mentoring things I've done are just internships. For folks who have kind of already started to commit to the profession.
Okay.
Because, as we
It's
described,
important.
it's hard for a 17-year-old Black male to get a job working in a vet,
Right.
unless they meet Dr. Wright. So I try to give them opportunities as long as, they've done the work to at least, hey, well, this is what it's like in a day here. Is this something you really think you could or would want to do? But also just broadening horizons about biology and science in general. I've done a couple talks for some science classes where I, might bring in, maybe some lumps that I've taken off or teeth that we've extracted, show some pictures of some weird things, because these are things the kids don't think about on a day-to-day basis. And so just to open it up like, oh, dogs do have, 32 teeth like people, or, a cat can get cancer like a person. It kind of opens that mind and gets them thinking about, well, I never thought that, these things occur, and maybe I would, be happy working in this type of field.
Sure. I'm thinking about your story.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you grew up, I think you described it as the streets of Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you grew up in the streets of Milwaukee, and right now you're experiencing a very successful life. There are many children who grow up in the streets of Milwaukee
Oh, yeah.
that don't experience a very
Mhm.
successful life. So I have a two-part question for you based on your experience.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and visit 10-year-old Ramard, he's not Dr. Wright yet. What would you want to tell him about himself? Number one. Number two, what resources would you want to see him surrounded by so that he could go on and fulfill his destiny?
Mhm.
So let's start with what you want to tell him.
I guess the lesson I've learned over 45 years is to, do you. Don't be persuaded by what everybody else is doing. If you have a goal or an idea in mind, focus on it, give it your best, and go all in. I think that's important. Too many people give up on their dreams because somebody told them they shouldn't do it, or everybody else isn't doing it. Or they become afraid because of what somebody may have said about it. And I think let naysayers say what they're going to say, and do you,
Right.
and
I'm
stay committed to it.
personally, I'm drawn to authentic people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawn to people who know who they are and they believe in who they are, and they say, forget what everybody else thinks.
Mhm.
I'm just going to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hear you saying that, and that resonates with me. What resources would you want to see around Ramard? maybe in his community, maybe in his schools.
Mhm.
What would you want him, Ramard, I'm sorry, what would you want him to have access to?
Well, I was pretty fortunate. Again, I kind of made up my mind at 5 or 6 that I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I
Okay.
had that on my, I had that where most people still were not even thinking about it. I knew that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And so I started early, focusing on what would make me a good veterinarian. And part of it is the knowledge and the science. And then second is the experience. So just learning about different animals and different techniques of dealing with animals. Um, but I didn't have many financial resources to reach this goal. I think there was a lot of effort on my part as far as going out and volunteering at the zoo or Humane Society. Filling out 40 different applications at veterinary hospitals to try to get a job.
Wow.
Once I did get accepted into the veterinary school, joining different clubs to kind of further
Hmm.
enhance my experience in the veterinary college. So you have to keep busy. You can't just hope that everything comes to you, um, because I didn't have a lot of resources. But I did my best to fill my time up with worthwhile activities that would help me out in the future. And
Okay.
that's tough for a child to think about.
Absolutely.
It's tough for adults to think about sometimes.
That's tough for a lot of people to think about.
But that's the key. Get serious and do what you have to do.
Well, those are doctor's orders, right? Get serious, do what you have to do. So what's next for you?
What's
What
next?
yeah, going into 2025,
Yes.
what's going to be next for you?
Well, and you have to keep looking forward. Next for me is, the practice has grown. Maybe eventually having more doctors. I have one doctor now.
Okay.
So maybe growing the practice.
Okay.
In this day and age, there's other opportunities as far as, social media. So maybe one day I'd be a podcast journalist where I describe the common ailments of the common pet,
Yeah.
things like that.
I see you're ready for that now.
Yeah,
You got the
you gotta
personality.
keep moving.
Yeah.
Even products, maybe inventing a new booty for the paws on animals so the salt doesn't get them on winter nights. Just I'm always busy, always thinking, always uh, striving to do more and also, something to give back to the kids. 10 kids, a lot of kids. So, I have to make sure that me and the wife have finances to put them through college. I mean, that's, in this day and age, it could be $150,000, $200,000 for
Easily.
undergrad education. So,
Easily.
um, so no, just making sure that that I don't get stagnant, that I don't become passive with my life and continue to motivate myself and my family to do more and better.
All right. Well, audience, you heard it from Dr. Ramard Wright. If you would like to learn more about his practice, again, where can they contact you, Dr. Wright?
Wright's Brown Deer Animal Hospital, located on 51st and Brown Deer, 8745 North 51st. By appointment, but we have a thriving practice and we love to see new puppies. So,
Oh, yes. And we're so excited again for Dr. Wright as he will receive the Trailblazer Award at the fall ball put on by Urban Learning Collaborative on Saturday, October 19th.
yes,
I'm looking forward to seeing you receive that award.
thank you.
All right. So this closes out another episode of our UTalks podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. And remember, leadership begins with me, but it really begins with you. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Lacey Coppins-Robbins, Executive Director of Urban Learning Collaborative, and you're listening to UTalks. As a reminder, you can join us here every week so that you can learn more about what's the latest when it comes to leadership. This particular podcast includes various groups, solo episodes, as well as interviews where you get a chance to hear not only from Dr. Clavon Byrd, but also myself as well as individuals within our community that are leading the next level of leadership. So, how can you be a part? Well, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with everything that's happening at the ULC and in the ULC community. We love to have you be a part of this. So remember, applications are continuously rolling for that you can either be a part of our school community, MESA, you can join and be a part of our teaching community in one of our teacher certification programs, or you can even make the decision that you want to advance and ascend into leadership by being a part of our Leadership Develop You. As we always say, and never forget, leadership doesn't begin with me, it begins with you.